Welcome to the Paleoethnobotany Lab. We are here with Dr. Hollenbach.
Come on in.
All right.
So in our larger archaeology lab, the paleoethnobotany portion is this section here that's closest to the elevators. So we have several microscopes, stereoscopic microscopes, that I use partly for class. I teach a paleoethnobotany class, and I'm currently teaching this spring semester, but I usually teach it every other year, where we go over paleoethnobotanical method and theory, and look at a lot of different samples and such. But then we also use it on research projects, and we take in samples from archaeologists all over the Southeast. We have samples in the lab at the moment from Virginia, from Dr. Heath's work there, but also from Alabama, Mississippi. We've just got a set of samples from North Carolina, and they range through time from around 6,000 years ago up through about 200 years ago. So a wide range of places and a wide range of time. We are looking primarily at flotation samples. And so I don't know if y'all remember back to your AMP 120 days, but with flotation, you take a bucket of dirt and you put it into a bucket of water, and those plant remains theoretically float to the top, and you collect those in your light fraction, and then everything that's left is the heavy fraction. So they end up looking something kind of like this, where you have your heavy fraction materials. This happens to come from a shell-midden site in South Carolina on the coast. And then your light fraction materials is a bunch of carbonized plant remains and other bits of uncarbonized plant stuff. And you'll notice too, like lots of little tiny bits of shell and bone and other small tiny artifacts too, so the heavy fraction is actually a lot of fun. And then, so once they're dry, folks send them to us, and we put them through a set of sieves, geologic sieves, to get them all roughly the same size. And then we look at them in the stereoscopic microscope and try to identify what they are. Are they wood, nuts, hickory nuts, acorn, corn, all sorts of different things. We have a lot of comparative materials, so modern different plants and bits and stuff that we collect and then carbonize and break them into little pieces so that we know what they look like when they're burnt and broken into little pieces, because that's how we find them from archaeological sites. So these are some modern acorns, ones that are burned, that we burned, and then here's a set of acorn meats from an archaeological site in Alabama that dates to around 1,000 years ago. A few more fun things that we often find. Here's some example of river cane. This one here especially, you kind of see how the fibers of that are kind of frayed at the end. Cane is a lot of fun to find. Native Americans used it, of course, for a wide range of purposes, from torches to basketry, woven mats and textiles and such. So a really good indication of kind of their material culture. But here's some examples of archaeological corn kernels. You can kind of see that nice round. They look a little bit like corn pops. So go get you a box of corn pops. You'll never look at them quite the same. And then some examples of corn cobs. See how small they are? They're so tiny. Probably really early ones, but in some larger sections of corn cobs. But talking about food and how people's food ways change through time as they go from being foragers really early on. Eastern North America is one of about 8 to 10, depending on how you count them, independent centers of domestication around the world. So looking at plants here in the eastern U.S. is a lot of fun, because people here, and likely women, domesticated a suite of plants and cultivated them. And then around 1,000 years ago, corn comes in and greatly changes people's lives as they become corn farmers. And then beans come in a little bit after that, around 700 years ago. And then when Europeans come in around 500 years ago and bring in peaches, and then sweet potatoes come in, Africans come over and bring in cowpeas and such too. And so really changes everybody's eating and food ways and patterns here. So that part is a lot of fun to be able to think about and talk about too. And we have a Southern Foodways garden out in the back over by the cottage back behind Strong Hall. We've just planted little barley. I'm trying to grow maygrass. Those are two of the lost crops that people here in the eastern U.S. cultivated until Europeans disturbed their life ways and practices, and that fell out. So we're growing those, hopefully. But towards the end of the spring, we will be planting corn and beans and probably bottle gourds as a Native American garden, but we'll also have an African diaspora garden and grow okra and cowpeas and bottle gourds again, kind of to show both of those influences here in the South on our foodways. So keep an eye for that, and I'm hoping to have sessions on every other Friday or so for folks who want to come out and help weed and such in the garden. So there's always opportunities to come in and help, especially with rough sorting, so especially those heavy fractions. Again, they're a lot of fun because you get to see a lot of little tiny things, and they look really cool underneath the microscope. And you just kind of get to sit and you can listen to a book on tape or anything like that, and look through and make little piles underneath the microscope. It's really kind of satisfying and a lot of fun. So if you're interested in doing that, feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to set you to sorting.